after the previous class, we have basically everything what we need to implement the following features of our backend, or basically our admin panel, which is allowing, in this case, for this specific class, to edit a set of skills or a set of projects. Basically, what we are going to do is to reutilize the components that we already have for the form for both projects and skill, and allowing it not only to create but to edit. The trick is gonna be this. If the user clicks on add new, we show the regular form that we already know. But if the user clicks edit, we are going to do different things. First, we are going to take the title, the description, and the color, and immediately fill the values for the title, the description, the color, and the icon indeed for the specific project. And essentially the same for the case of the skill. And we are going to switch automatically the method of the form from post to put or patch to update, and specify the corresponding element that we are updating. So once the user clicks here, we are going to show essentially this already populated with the information of the specific element that we are editing, and that's all. We change the method. Of course, then we need to go to the backend and implement that functionalities to get it working properly with the corresponding validations and the updates in the database. So let's go there, and we're going to start with the skills. We have here all for the skills and all for the project. So let's go there. What we're going to do is to generalize this. So remember, once the user clicks on edit, we are going to make a set of actions. Let's see what we are going to do. So here, after the class, we are going to do the following things. At click, we are going to say first that, well, acting is gonna be true. That means we are going to open the model that we already have. Then we need to change the method of our form. This is gonna be put, could be patch if you prefer. Both of them are going to work perfectly fine. Then we are going to specify the action. This is very important. The action to store is completely different from the action to eventually create the element and of course update it. So yeah, we need to say that an action is gonna be to the value that we get from the route helper. So yeah, we are going to need some little modifications in the already implemented functionality to store a skill. So here we're going to go to skills that update, and very important, we need to identify the skill that we are going to update. So we need to send a second parameter here saying the skill ID. Remember, we are already inside a loop, so we know what skill is it, and we are going to pass the ID of that so we know which skill we are updating as well. Then we are going to fill the form with the corresponding values of this specific skill. So we have form at the name is gonna be equals to the actual name of this specific skill. So we have skill.name, and essentially the same in the case of the color. Perfect. Now, that means multiple things. First, that we need to change the method. We are going to change that dynamically depending on that attribute of that property. That means that we will have a method property, and essentially the same for the action. So if we go back here to the bottom where we are defining our form, here we are not going to use post all the times. No, we are going to use the actual method that we have. And essentially here we are not going to use all the times the skill store. We are going to use the action that we have. So we have two new components or two new properties here, which are the method and the action at all. But remember, if those are completely dynamic, should not be in the properties itself, should be in the data that we are going to be changing in real time, as we do with acting, as we do with the components of the form. So we are going to have the method and the action. So once we have those, we are initializing them once we press the button. But that means that currently for storing, for creating a specific skill, we don't know what is gonna be the method, and we don't know what is gonna be the action. So we need to go to the create button that we have in the top of our table, basically here it is. And after the click, we are going to do not only showing the form, in this case the model, but additionally we are going to say that the method is gonna be post, and additionally that the action is going to be the one that we already know, the route going to skills that store. Perfect. So at this point we have everything perfectly functional. Let's verify. I'm going to skills, of course, going back to our project. Let's log in again. skills. And if I click here, everything is working perfectly. We can create a new one, testing 2, select any color, submit, this is working. And now let's click on edit, and it looks like it didn't work, so let's verify the console. Let's do refresh, just in case, to get the latest changes. Remember, this is a single page application, so we probably didn't get the actual results, and yeah, that was the cause. We need to refresh. Actually, this is essentially a proof that we were on a single page application. Everything was loading on real time, so we didn't get the latest changes even when we go from one section to another. And well, if click on edit, here it is. The values that we have. It is the value, this is the value. Let's try with this. We have this title, testing, for example, edit. So we have testing and the actual color that we need. Of course, if we click here and actually change the values, testing new, and let's say that the color is gonna be red, we submit, and there is probably now an error. Method is not defined. So let's verify what's going on. Let's go back. At clicking, we are saying the method is equals to post, the action is equals to this route, and let's go. Essentially the same here. In the case of edit, acting, method, action, let's see. In the properties that we have the data, we have method correspondingly declared here, acting, method, action. So everything should be fine here. So probably the problem is here in the method. And of course, we need to reference them in the context of our specific element. So here, if we use only method and action as I did, this is essentially inside the scope of this specific submit function, but we need to access them through the specific component that we are. So we need to use this method, and of course the same here, this action to reference the actual properties, the actual data that we have here. So let's try it again. Let's do refresh. We have testing 2, for example. Let's remove the number. Let's change the to gray, for example. And there it is. It, let's say, worked, but of course, we already know we don't have the update action completely implemented, but it means that we are going to the backend. That's perfectly functional. And let's verify in the case of store, we can go here. You can see how we are not creating the 4 because it was not a success response. So let's try something different, testing new with a different color. And let's submit. And here it is. It is working. It is dynamically changing the method and populating, as we saw, the specific form. So now let's do the same in the case of project. So let's go back there and we are going to do essentially the same. Going to project, we are going to say that when the user clicks on add new, we are going to say that acting is equals to true. And let me essentially copy this. So let's go up there. Acting is true, method is post, and the action is going to be, of course, to projects store. And essentially the same in the case of edit. Once the user clicks there, we are going to perform all of this. So let's copy that and put it in the edit button of the actual projects. Let's go there. Here it is, edit. And after the classes, we have this. The acting is true, the method put. The route is going to be for projects update. Of course, we are accessing this time a project. And then we have the project name. In this case, it's not the name, it's the title. Then we have the description. Of course, it is title as well. Then we have description. And then we have, remember, the icon name. Basically the same, but with a set of different attributes and a little bit more of them. Now, at this point, it should be working essentially the same in the case of projects, but remember, we need to go to the data and define that we are already having the method is equals to null, and the same for the action. And that means that in the form, we are going to use those. Remember, this time, don't make a mistake, this method, and the same here, this action. So if everything is okay, we should be able to go to our projects. Let's go here. Let's do refresh. Let's create a new one. Let's say, for example, a shop system, purchases, whatever that you prefer to put there. Let's keep it the chat. Here it is. We already created. And if we try to edit it, you can see how we have populated the information. And if we try to change something, again, this is going to fail because we need to implement those specific methods in our controller. So let's do that. It is pretty similar to store. So let's go to start with still controller that we have here, and let's copy the content of this. And we have so an update function. This is gonna receive the request, but additionally, this is going to receive the skill that we are updating. So we have the skill. It's gonna be called skill. Automatically, Laravel is going to resolve that based on the ID that we are sending to the form in the request, and then we just need to validate. Again, the name is required, should be the maximum of 255 characters and should be unique. But here is a detail. We need to ignore the actual element that we are updating. Let's imagine that the user didn't change the name, so it is going to say, hey, there already exists a skill with that name, which is not true because it's the actual same skill. So we need to say, hey, please ignore the actual skill where we are, which is the ID that we already resolved. We already resolved the skill, so we just need to access the ID. And then in the case of the color, we are verifying it is there, so it is required, and we are in the same list of available properties. Then we are going to use the skill update and receiving the same data that we have on the request. And once again, we'll return a redirect to skills.index. And well, we are going to do basically the same in the case of project. We are going to duplicate this. This is going to be, of course, update. Remember, we'll receive here a project. And then we are going to validate the same here. The rule for the project title is unique, but we need to ignore the current project that we are validating. So project ID. And they're exactly the same. Description is required, the color and the icon of required should be inside the list. And here instead of create, we call to update, sending the same information and go back to projects index. So if everything is okay, let's do refresh here, just in case. Should not be necessary, but just in case. Let's try to edit a project. Let's put a number 2 here, a number 2 here. Let's change this to, for example, pink. Let's keep the same currency dollar icon. And yeah, of course, I made a corresponding mistake. Here, the problem is that we are updating a project, but what project are we updating? Well, it's not any project, it's the actual project that we have here, of course. Pretty interesting detail. Here, we need to use project update, and of course, it's not a static call. We need to use directly the arrow, and it's gonna be the same. In the case of skill, we need to use the actual skill that we are editing here, and we use the arrow. So let's try it again. Let's close this. RESTful API 2, the same for the description, the same changes that we had. And here it is, RESTful API 2, the number 2, the color changed to pink. And once again, we can try to, for example, modify this. Purchases 2, let's change the color to yellow, submit, and here it is. Perfectly functional, it is working great. We already are updating, and of course, we can create something that we prefer. Let's put this specifically random, chat, or any other thing, book open. And there it is, perfectly functional. And of course, we can go and verify if it is working for skills as well. So let's edit an existing one. Let's say that the skill is HTML5 and the color is gonna be red. Let's submit. Here it is, HTML5, even with a typo. So let's fix that we have the way to do it. And here it is. And of course, we can create another one. Let's say that you already know Laravel. Of course you do. Let's say that the color is red as well. Let's submit, and there it is. Perfectly functional, and you can go to your portfolio and verify how it is working. Essentially, what we did here is to reutilize the components that we did and just dynamically, after the clicks, change the method, change the action, basically the route where we are going, and then we implemented the actual functionalities in the backend to actually update the information that we are receiving for that specific skill or project. That's all. See you in the following class to finish with our admin panel implementing the functionalities to actually remove an existing set of skills or projects. See you there.